What if the people you trusted most with your child's safety were the ones destroying her life? What if your own blood, your own sister, was hiding a secret so dark that when you finally discovered it, your entire world would collapse? This is not just another story about family betrayal. This is about a mother who made an impossible choice, a vulnerable daughter who suffered in silence, and a truth so horrifying that it will change how you think about trust, family, and protection forever. Before I continue, I need you to ask yourself, would you have seen the signs? Would you have known? Stay with me because what I'm about to share will shock you, anger you, and hopefully, wake you up to dangers hiding in plain sight. Before we begin, I want to make something absolutely clear. This story contains descriptions of child abuse and sexual violence. While this narrative is fictional and created for educational purposes, the themes reflect real dangers that vulnerable individuals face every day. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, please reach out to the appropriate authorities or support services immediately. In the UK, you can contact the NSPCC helpline at 08088005000 or Childline at 0800 1111. This content is intended for mature audiences and aims to raise awareness about the protection of vulnerable individuals, particularly those with special needs. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Now let me tell you about myself, Catherine Mitchell, or as everyone called me, Kiki. My name is Catherine Mitchell, but you can call me Kiki. That's what everyone in Hammersmith called me. Kiki with the bright smile, Kiki who worked at the cafe on King Street, Kiki who always had a kind word for everyone. But behind that smile was a woman carrying a weight that would have crushed most people. I gave birth to my daughter Emma, on a rainy Tuesday morning in March at Queen Charlotte's Hospital. The moment I held her, I knew something was different. Not wrong, never wrong, just different. She didn't look at me the way the other babies in the maternity ward looked at their mothers. Her eyes seemed to focus on something beyond me, something only she could see. My husband David noticed it too. But where I saw wonder, he saw disappointment. "Something's not right with her," he muttered, barely glancing at our newborn daughter. I held Emma closer as if my body could shield her from those words. The diagnosis came when Emma was 3 years old. Autism spectrum disorder. The doctor at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital sat us down in a small room with pale blue walls and explained it gently, professionally. He talked about support systems, therapies, and the beautiful life Emma could still have. David heard none of it. He stood up and walked out before the doctor finished speaking. "Let me ask you something. Have you ever loved someone who couldn't love themselves? Have you ever watched someone you care about reject the most precious gift they've ever been given?" That was my life for the next 11 years. David's rejection wasn't quiet or private. It was loud, constant, and cruel. He would flinch when Emma made sounds. He would leave the room when she needed comfort. He would make comments, sharp, cutting comments that were designed to hurt. Why can't she be normal? I didn't sign up for this. This isn't the life I wanted. And my personal favorite, the one that still echoes in my mind, she's your problem, not mine. Our flat in Hammersmith became a prison. Emma's prison. My prison. The walls absorbed our pain, our silence, our desperate attempts to be invisible so David wouldn't explode. I tried everything. I took Emma to speech therapy in Chiswick, to occupational therapy in Kensington, to support groups in Richmond. I read every book, joined every parent forum, and spoke with every specialist I could find. But nothing changed at home. David's cruelty evolved. He would forget to feed Emma when I worked late shifts. He would turn off her comfort lights at night, knowing she was afraid of the dark. He would hide her favorite toy, a soft purple elephant named Biscuit, just to watch her have a meltdown. And here's the question that haunted me every single day. How long can a mother watch her child suffer before she breaks? For me, the breaking point came on a Tuesday evening in November. I came home from my shift at the cafe to find Emma, then 13 years old, sitting on the kitchen floor. She was rocking back and forth, humming the way she did when she was distressed. Her dinner plate was on the floor, food scattered everywhere. David was in the living room watching football, the volume turned up high. "What happened?" I asked Emma gently, kneeling beside her. She didn't answer. She rarely spoke, my Emma, but her eyes told me everything. I walked into the living room. "David, why is Emma's dinner on the floor?" He didn't look away from the television. "She was making those sounds." I got annoyed. "She dropped it herself. She's 13 years old, David. She's a child. She's not a normal child, is she? He finally looked at me and the coldness in his eyes made my blood run cold. Maybe it's time we considered other options. Other options? What are you talking about? Residential care. A special facility. Somewhere she can be with people who know how to deal with her kind. Her kind. Those two words broke something fundamental inside me. My daughter wasn't a problem to be shipped away. She was a human being who deserved love, patience, and dignity. But I was also terrified. Terrified of David's anger. Terrified of being a single mother. Terrified that I couldn't protect Emma from the man who was supposed to be her father. That's when my sister called my older sister, Charlotte, or Charlie as the family called her, lived in Notting Hill with her husband, Gregory Hamilton. While I struggled in our cramped two-bedroom flat in Hammersmith, Charlie lived in a beautiful four-story townhouse with a private garden, a modern kitchen, and more space than two people could ever need. Gregory was a financial consultant in the city, and Charlie ran a small but growing wellness business from home. They were the picture of success, the couple everyone admired at family gatherings. Charlie called me on a Wednesday afternoon in December, just after Emma's 14th birthday. A birthday David had completely ignored. "Kiki, darling, I've been thinking," she said in that smooth, caring voice of hers. "I know things have been difficult with David and Emma." I felt defensive immediately. "We're managing." "Are you though?" She wasn't accusatory, just concerned. "Mum mentioned David's been difficult. And Emma deserves better than difficult, doesn't she?" Tears stung my eyes. "What are you saying, Charlie?" "Gregory and I have been talking. We have all this space and no children of our own. Emma could have her own bedroom here, a proper garden to play in, and I could take her to appointments since I work from home. You could visit whenever you want, of course." Stop for a moment. If someone offered you a solution to your biggest problem, a way to keep your child safe and give them a better life, would you take it? Or would you hesitate? I hesitated. "Charlie, I don't know. She's my daughter." "Of course she is, and you'll always be her mother. But think about it practically, Kiki. David's making her miserable. You're working yourself to death at that cafe. Emma needs stability, space, and people who can give her their full attention. I can provide that. Let me think about it." But Charlie was persistent. Over the next 3 weeks she called regularly. She sent pictures of the bedroom they could convert for Emma. A large room with windows overlooking the garden, painted in soft lavender, Emma's favorite color. She talked about the excellent schools nearby, the therapy centers in Kensington, the parks where Emma could walk safely. And every day David made life worse. He started locking Emma in her room when I wasn't home. He would blast music to drown out her sounds. Once I came home to find he'd thrown away her sensory toys because they annoyed him. The final straw came on New Year's Eve. We were supposed to have a quiet night at home, me, David, and Emma. But David invited his mates over without telling me. They drank, they shouted at the television, they filled our small flat with noise and chaos. Emma had a complete meltdown. She was overstimulated, terrified, screaming in a way that broke my heart. David's friend Mark laughed. Actually laughed. "Can't you control your kid, Dave?" And David, my husband, the father of my child, said, "That's not my kid. That's Kiki's mistake." I want you to feel that for a moment. Imagine hearing the person who's supposed to protect your child call them a mistake. Imagine the rage, the heartbreak, the absolute devastation. I called Charlie that night. "I'll bring Emma on Saturday," I said. Saturday, January 12th. The date is burned into my memory like a brand. I packed Emma's things in 2 large suitcases. Clothes, her purple elephant biscuit, her weighted blanket, her favorite books about space and dinosaurs. She watched me pack, confused, making small worried sounds. "We're going to visit Auntie Charlie," I told her gently. "You'll love her house, darling. It has a big garden and a beautiful room just for you." Emma didn't understand. How could she? I barely understood what I was doing. David was at the pub. He'd been there since morning, which made everything easier. I couldn't have faced him, couldn't have listened to him gloat about finally getting rid of the problem. We took the district line from Hammersmith to Notting Hill Gate, then walked the 10 minutes to Charlie's townhouse. Emma held my hand tightly the whole way, humming nervously. Charlie and Gregory were waiting at the door, all smiles and warmth. "Emma, sweetheart, welcome." Charlie knelt down to Emma's level, careful not to touch her without warning. I told her about Emma's sensory sensitivities. "I'm your Auntie Charlie. Would you like to see your room?" Gregory stood behind Charlie, tall and distinguished in his weekend casual clothes, expensive jeans and a crisp white shirt. He smiled at Emma, but there was something in his eyes I couldn't quite read. I dismissed it. I was looking for reasons to doubt, I told myself, because I didn't want to let go. The house was even more beautiful than the pictures. High ceilings, original Victorian features, and that beautiful garden visible through French doors in the kitchen. Emma's room was on the second floor. Spacious, peaceful, perfect. Emma seemed not happy but not distressed either. She explored the room carefully, touching the soft lavender walls, sitting on the bed, clutching biscuit. And here's where I need you to really think. When you're desperate, when you're exhausted, when someone offers you hope, how clearly can you actually see the truth? We had tea in the kitchen. Charlie had made Emma's favorite, fish fingers and chips, with the chips cut in a specific way Emma preferred. She'd done her research and I was grateful for that. Gregory was quiet, letting Charlie do most of the talking. He watched Emma with an intensity one told myself was just interest, concern, kindness. Emma will be perfectly safe here, he said at one point, his voice deep and assured. We'll take excellent care of her, Catherine. You have my word. When it was time to leave, Emma grabbed my hand. Mama, she said, one of the few words she reliably used. Her eyes were wide, questioning. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. I'll visit soon, my darling. So soon. Auntie Charlie is going to take wonderful care of you. You'll see. I kissed her forehead, breathed in her scent, lavender shampoo and something uniquely Emma, and I left. I left my daughter in that beautiful house in Notting Hill, and I told myself I was doing the right thing. Charlie walked me to the door. She'll settle in quickly, she assured me. I'll call you every day with updates. Can I visit this weekend? A brief pause. Let's give her a few weeks to adjust. You know how she struggles with transitions. Too much back and forth might confuse her. It made sense. It all made sense. I walked back to Hammersmith in a daze, got on the tube and went back to our empty flat. David came home drunk at midnight and didn't even ask where Emma was. Let me ask you something. How do you live with a decision that haunts you every single day? How do you function when guilt is your constant companion? The first few weeks were agony. I called Charlie every day, sometimes twice a day. How is she? Is she eating? Is she sleeping? Is she asking for me? Charlie's answers were always reassuring. Emma was adjusting well. She loved the garden. She was making progress with a new therapist Charlie had found. She was happy. Can I visit her? Suniki. Let's not disrupt her routine just yet. A month passed. 2 months. 3 months. I finally insisted on visiting. Charlie reluctantly agreed but set strict conditions. Short visit, scheduled in advance, calm environment. When I arrived, Emma seemed different, quieter, more withdrawn. She barely looked at me. It's part of her adjustment, Charlie explained. The therapist said she's processing the change. She's actually doing remarkably well. I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her. David's behavior at home had improved, not toward me but in general. He was calmer without Emma there, which only reinforced the decision I'd made. At least someone was happier, I told myself. My visits became monthly, then every few months. Charlie always had a reason why more frequent visits weren't ideal. Emma's therapy schedule, school commitments, the need for routine and stability. And I let it happen. I let those reasons become barriers between me and my daughter. Here's the painful truth. Sometimes we believe lies because the truth would destroy us. I noticed things, though. Small things that didn't quite add up. Emma always looked tired during my visits. She had lost weight. She rarely made eye contact anymore, even less than before. She would flinch at sudden movements. Is everything all right? I asked Charlie once. Emma seems, I don't know, different. She's a teenager now, Kiki. Teenagers with autism go through changes just like any other teenager. Plus, her therapy is addressing some challenging behaviors. It's a process. Gregory was always polite but distant during my visits. He rarely stayed in the room when I was there, always claiming he had work to do in his home office. Charlie's business was thriving. She'd expanded from online wellness coaching to offering in-person sessions. She'd renovated part of the house into a proper treatment space. She wore expensive clothes, drove a new car and talked about expanding further. Business must be going really well, I said once. Her smile was bright. I've discovered some remarkable new treatments. Absolutely transformative. My clients are willing to pay premium prices for premium results. I should have asked more questions. I should have demanded to know more. I should have trusted my instincts. But I didn't. Then 3 years after I left Emma in that house, David died. David's death was sudden. A heart attack at the pub of all places. 1 minute he was arguing about football, the next he was on the floor. I felt nothing when the police came to tell me. No grief, no relief, just nothing. The funeral was small. David's mates came, some distant relatives, and Charlie. Emma didn't attend. Charlie thought it would be too overwhelming for her, and I agreed. After the funeral, after the will was settled, he'd left everything to me, not that there was much. After I'd packed up David's things and donated them to charity, I had a thought that had been growing for weeks. I could have Emma back. The reason I'd sent her away was gone. David, with his cruelty and his rejection, was no longer a threat. I could finally be the mother Emma deserved, without fear, without walking on eggshells, without watching my child suffer. I called Charlie 2 weeks after the funeral. I want Emma back, I said. Silence on the other end of the line. Charlie. Kiki, that's not a good idea. What do you mean? Emma is settled here. She has her routines, her therapists, her school. Moving her again would be incredibly disruptive. She's my daughter, Charlie. I can finally give her the life she deserves. You had 3 years to do that. The words hit me like a physical blow. That's not fair. I'm not trying to be cruel, Kiki, I'm thinking about Emma's best interests. You're living in that tiny flat in Hammersmith. You're working long hours at the cafe. What can you offer her that she doesn't already have here? Stop and think about this. When someone questions your ability to care for your own child, using your circumstances against you, what do they really mean? Love, I said quietly. I can offer her love. Her mother's love, she has love here. It's not the same. Charlie sighed. Let me talk to Gregory. We'll discuss it and get back to you. She didn't get back to me. I called repeatedly over the next week, but she either didn't answer or claimed she was too busy to talk. Finally, I showed up at the house unannounced on a Thursday afternoon. Charlie answered the door and her face immediately showed displeasure. Kiki, you can't just show up like this. I want to see my daughter. Now. She's at a therapy session. Then I'll wait. Kiki, I'm not leaving, Charlie. Either let me in or I'll sit on your doorstep until Emma comes home. Reluctantly, she let me inside. We sat in the kitchen, the air between us tense and cold. I think you should consider what's actually best for Emma, Charlie said. You're being emotional and selfish. Selfish? I'm her mother. A mother who gave her away. The words hung in the air between us, sharp and cruel. I did what I thought was best at the time. David was making her life hell. And now you're alone and regretting it. But Emma isn't a toy you can put away and take out when it's convenient. That's not what I'm doing. Isn't it? You abandoned her for 3 years, Kiki. 3 years. And now that your life is easier, you want her back. Have you ever had someone twist your pain into a weapon against you? Have you ever had your worst fears about yourself spoken aloud by someone you trusted? I never abandoned her, I said, my voice breaking. I thought she was safe here. I thought she was happy. She's happy. Happier than she'd be with you. I stood up. I'm taking her back, Charlie. Tomorrow. I'll come tomorrow morning and take her home. Charlie stood as well, her face cold and hard. Your daughter wouldn't want to live with you anymore, Kiki. She's enjoying a good life here. She doesn't even ask about you anymore. That statement. Those words. They settled into my chest like stones, cold and heavy. Emma didn't ask about me. In 3 years had I become a stranger to my own child. I left the house that afternoon feeling hollowed out, gutted. But something else was stirring inside me too. Suspicion. Charlie's desperation to keep Emma didn't make sense. Yes, they'd bonded, and yes, Emma had routines there. But the intensity of Charlie's refusal, the way she tried to shame me, the way she'd used my guilt as a weapon, it all felt wrong. That night I barely slept. I kept replaying conversations in my head, remembering small details. Emma's weight loss. Her fearful eyes. The way she flinched. Charlie's growing wealth. Gregory's absence during my visits. And here's the question that kept me awake. What if everything I believed about my daughter's safety was a lie? By morning, I'd made my decision that I was going to that house unannounced. No phone call, no warning. I would arrive when Charlie and Gregory didn't expect me, and I would see with my own eyes how Emma was really living. Saturday morning, 10:15 am. I took the tube from Hammersmith to Notting Hill Gate, just like I had 3 years before. But this time my hands were shaking. This time, something told me I was about to discover something that would change everything. The walk to Charlie's house felt both too long and too short. Part of me wanted to run back home, to leave things as they were, to keep believing the lies that let me sleep at night. But I couldn't. Not anymore. The house looked the same, beautiful, pristine, with its black door and polished brass number. A home that belonged in a magazine. I tried the door. It was unlocked. Charlie often left it unlocked during the day when she was home, I remembered. The neighborhood was safe, she always said. That I stepped inside quietly. The house was silent except for a faint sound coming from upstairs. At first I couldn't identify it. A rhythmic creaking like furniture moving, and beneath it something else. A muffled sound that might have been crying. Have you ever experienced that moment when your body knows something terrible is happening before your mind catches up? When your heart starts racing and your hands go cold and your legs feel weak, all before you consciously understand why. I climbed the stairs, my footsteps silent on the thick carpet. The sound was coming from the second floor, from what I thought was the guest room, the one Charlie had converted into her treatment space for clients. Room 7, she called it. Lucky number 7. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open. And my world ended. My daughter, my Emma, was on the massage table in the center of the room. Her wrists were bound with soft restraints. Her ankles were bound. Her mouth was covered with a cloth gag. And Gregory was on top of her. I need you to stop here. I need you to feel the weight of this moment. A mother discovering her child, her vulnerable autistic child, being violated by someone who promised to protect her. Can you imagine the horror? The rage? The absolute destruction of everything you believed about the world? I screamed. The sound that came out of me was primal, inhuman. It was 3 years of guilt and pain and betrayal exploding all at once. Gregory jumped off Emma, scrambling to pull his clothes on, his face white with panic. Emma was frozen, her eyes wide and empty, tears streaming down her face. I wanted to run to her, but my body wouldn't move. My legs gave out and I collapsed against the door frame. Kiki, this isn't... Gregory started. I screamed again. Get away from her. Get away from my daughter. I stumbled backward down the stairs, my vision blurring with tears and rage. I made it to the front garden and collapsed against the gate, my phone in my shaking hands. I called my brothers first. Michael and Thomas, both living in South London. Get to Charlie's house. No. Something's happened. Something terrible. I called David's best friend James, who lived in Shepherd's Bush. Come to Notting Hill. I need witnesses. I need help. I couldn't go back inside. I couldn't face what I'd seen. So I waited by the gate, my whole body shaking, my mind unable to process what I'd witnessed. Michael and Thomas arrived first, running up the street. What's happened? You're white as a sheet. Upstairs, I managed. Emma. Gregory. He was. I couldn't say the words. James arrived moments later, out of breath. Kiki. We need to go inside, Michael said. All of us. Now. We entered the house together. Me, my 2 brothers and James. Charlie had come downstairs by then. She was in the living room, her face composed, calm. Too calm. Kiki, I think you misunderstood what you saw, she began. Where is my daughter? I screamed. She's upstairs resting. Gregory was giving her therapeutic massage. It's part of her treatment plan. With her hands and feet tied, with her mouth covered. She becomes agitated during treatments. The restraints are for her own safety. Think about this. How does someone look you in the eye and lie about something so evil? How do they stay calm while defending the indefensible? That's complete bollocks, and you know it, Thomas said, his voice dangerous and low. Where's Gregory? In his office. Get him down here. Now. Charlie opened her mouth to argue, but Michael was already heading upstairs. He returned moments later with Gregory, who looked terrified, and with Emma wrapped in a blanket, her face buried in Michael's shoulder. My daughter. My baby. In my brother's arms because I couldn't even hold her myself. I was shaking so badly. Right, Michael said, his voice deadly calm. Someone want to explain what's going on? Gregory started to speak, started to give the same lie Charlie had, but Thomas cut him off. Don't you dare. We all know what this looks like. Kiki, tell us exactly what you saw. I forced the words out, my voice breaking. I saw Gregory on top of Emma. She was tied down. Her mouth was covered. She was crying. James moved toward Gregory, but Michael held up a hand. Not yet. Let him speak first. Let him dig his own grave. It's not what it looked like, Gregory said, his voice shaking now. It's therapy. It's therapy. I screamed. You call that therapy? Kiki saw the therapy in progress. Charlie interjected. It looks shocking, I understand, but it's a recognized treatment for... Shut up, Charlie, Michael said. Just shut up. There's no therapy that involves restraining a child and doing what Kiki described. Emma made a small sound and we all looked at her. She was still in Michael's arms, trembling, her face hidden. Thomas took out his phone. I'm calling the police. No. Charlie said quickly. No, please. Think about the scandal. Think about Emma. Do you really want her dragged through the system, questioned, examined? Think about what's best for her. And here's where you see the abuser's final play, using the victim's well-being as a shield for their crimes. What's best for her is getting away from you monsters, James said. But something was happening to my brothers. I could see it in their faces. The rage building, the realization of what had been done to their niece, the years of abuse, the betrayal. Michael handed Emma to James. Take her outside. Take her to Kiki. Don't let her see this. See what? I asked. But I already knew. Thomas locked the front door. Michael closed the living room curtains. Last chance, Michael said to Gregory. Tell us the truth. All of it. And Gregory, faced with two men who looked ready to tear him apart, broke. It's been 3 years, he whispered. Since she came to live here. The room went silent. At first it was just looking. Charlie suggested it. She said Emma wouldn't understand, wouldn't remember. She said it was harmless. I'm going to be sick, I whispered. But then it became more. Charlie said we could use her. That it would help the business. That certain clients would pay for access. So, breathe. I know this is difficult. But this is the reality that exists in the world. This is what happens to vulnerable people when the wrong people gain access to them. You sold her. Thomas's voice was barely human. You sold a child? Not sold. It was therapeutic services. Charlie's clients paid for healing sessions and Emma's energy was part of the treatment. It was insanity. It was evil dressed up in wellness language. And you? Michael turned to Charlie. This was your idea? Charlie's composed face finally cracked. You don't understand. The business was failing. We were going to lose the house. Gregory was going to lose his job. And then Kiki handed us this opportunity. Emma doesn't understand what's happening to her. She barely communicates. And the money saved us. The money. I stood up, my whole body shaking with rage. You destroyed my daughter for money? I gave her a good home. I fed her, clothed her, took her to school. I did more for her than you ever did. That's when Thomas snapped. He crossed the room in 2 strides and punched Gregory square in the face. Gregory went down hard, blood exploding from his nose. Tomas, no. I shouted, but it was too late. Michael was on Gregory too, dragging him up, hitting him again. Gregory tried to defend himself, but he was no match for 2 men consumed by righteous fury. I should have stopped them. I should have called the police right then. But I didn't. I let my brothers beat the man who had violated my daughter for 3 years. Charlie screamed, tried to pull them off, but Thomas shoved her away. You're next, he promised. The beating didn't last long, maybe 2 minutes, but it felt eternal. When they finally stepped back, Gregory was on the floor, conscious but bleeding, his face a mess. I'll tell you everything, he gasped. I'll confess. Just stop. Please. And he did. He told us about the first time 6 months after Emma arrived. How Charlie had suggested it, had said it would be fine, that Emma wouldn't tell anyone, couldn't tell anyone, that he told us about the clients. Wealthy people from all over London who paid thousands of pounds for what Charlie marketed as primal energy healing sessions. Sessions that included access to Emma. He told us about the restraints necessary because Emma would try to fight, would try to get away, that he told us about the gag necessary because Emma would scream. He told us that after each session he would collect his biological material, and Charlie would use it in her treatments, telling clients it was a powerful healing substance. I cannot adequately describe the horror in that room. The absolute depravity of what we were hearing. My sister, my own sister, had built a business on the systematic abuse of my disabled daughter. By the time Gregory finished talking, I was on the floor, vomiting into the bin, my whole body convulsing with disgust and grief. Thomas was on his phone, calling the police now, his voice shaking. Michael was standing over Gregory, making sure he didn't move, and Charlie was sitting on the sofa, her face in her hands, crying. We needed the money, she kept saying. We needed the money. As if that justified anything. As if money could ever be worth what they'd stolen from Emma. The police arrived within 20 minutes. 2 officers first, then more, then specialists, then social workers. The house became a crime scene. Emma was taken to University College Hospital for examination. I went with her, holding her hand, the first time I'd really held her in 3 years. The medical examination confirmed what we already knew. 3 years of systematic sexual abuse. Physical evidence. Scarring. Trauma. My daughter had been tortured in that house for 3 years while I lived my quiet life in Hammersmith, believing she was safe. Gregory was arrested at the scene. Charlie was arrested an hour later. My brothers gave statements. James gave a statement. I gave a statement, though I barely remember what I said. I was in shock, my mind unable to fully process what had happened. The case made the news within days. Notting Hill couple arrested in child abuse case. Wellness business front for horrific crimes. Vulnerable teen rescued from 3 years of abuse. But they didn't use Emma's name. They didn't use mine. We were protected by anonymity laws, thank God. Can you imagine having your worst nightmare become public knowledge? Can you imagine the world knowing you failed to protect your child? The investigation revealed the full scope of the horror. Client lists. Payment records. Videos. God help me, there were videos. Gregory had recorded some of the sessions for clients who couldn't attend in person. 11 people were arrested in total. 11 wealthy, respected members of London society who had paid to abuse my daughter. The trial took 18 months to get to court. 18 months of reliving the nightmare of giving testimony, of watching Emma slowly begin to heal while also having to face what had been done to her. Gregory pleaded guilty to avoid a trial. He got 26 years. Charlie pleaded guilty too. She got 18 years as an accomplice and facilitator. The others, the clients, received sentences ranging from 8 to 15 years. Not enough. Not nearly enough for what they'd done. But it was something. Emma came home to live with me. Not to the flat in Hammersmith. I couldn't bring her back there, to the place where David had tormented her. I used the compensation money. Yes, there was compensation, though no amount of money could ever compensate for what was stolen, to rent a small house in Richmond. 2 bedrooms, a garden, quiet neighbors. A fresh start. But you can't outrun trauma. Emma didn't speak for 6 months after coming home. Not a single word. She would sit in her room, rocking, humming, clutching Biscuit, the purple elephant that had somehow survived everything. She couldn't bear to be touched. If I reached for her hand, she would flinch. If I tried to hug her, she would pull away, her breathing rapid and panicked. The nightmares were constant. I would wake at 3 in the morning to the sound of her screaming, and I would run to her room to find her thrashing in her bed, trapped in memories I couldn't reach. Let me ask you, how do you help someone heal from something you can't even fully comprehend? How do you tell your child you're safe now, when they have every reason not to believe you? We found a trauma specialist, Dr. Sarah Chin, who worked at the Tavistock Clinic. She specialized in working with autistic individuals who had experienced severe trauma. The sessions were slow. Painful. Sometimes Emma wouldn't even enter Dr. Chen's office. She would sit in the waiting room, rocking, humming, refusing to move. But Dr. Chen was patient. Extraordinary patient. Healing isn't linear, she told me once. And for someone like Emma who processes the world differently, it will take even longer. But she will heal, Catherine. I promise you that. I wanted to believe her. The guilt was crushing me. Every night I would lie in bed and replay every decision I'd made. Every moment I'd chosen to believe Charlie's lies. Every visit where I'd seen the signs but dismissed them. I gave my daughter to monsters. That sentence played on repeat in my mind, destroying me slowly from the inside. I started seeing my own therapist, Dr. Michael Foster in Kew. He specialized in trauma, grief, and what he called moral injury. The psychological damage that comes from believing you've violated your own moral code. You made the best decision you could with the information you had at the time, he told me during one session. That's not good enough, I said. I'm her mother. I should have known. I should have protected her. You're not omniscient, Catherine. You're human. And humans can be deceived, especially by people they trust. But should a mother be deceived when her child's safety is at stake? That's the question that still haunts me. Slowly, painfully slowly, Emma began to improve. After 6 months she spoke her first word, safe. It was a question. She was asking if she was safe now. I burst into tears. Yes, my darling. Yes. You're safe. I promise you're safe. She didn't believe me, not really. But it was a start. After 8 months she let me hold her hand while we walked in Richmond Park. Just for a minute, just briefly, but it felt like a miracle. After a year she smiled. A small, tentative smile when I made her favorite dinner. Fish fingers and chips, cut the way she liked them. The healing wasn't smooth. There were setbacks. Days when she regressed completely, when the trauma overwhelmed her and she couldn't function at all. There were days when I couldn't function either, when the guilt and grief pinned me to the bed and I couldn't move. But we kept going. My brothers visited regularly. Michael and Thomas had become Emma's fierce protectors, her champions. They would sit with her quietly, not demanding anything, just being present. James visited too, bringing books about space and dinosaurs, Emma's favorite subjects. He never mentioned what he'd witnessed that day. None of us did around Emma. We built a new life, Emma and I. A quiet life. A safe life. She went to a specialized school in Richmond that understood trauma and autism. The teachers were gentle, patient, and never pushed her beyond what she could handle. She started painting in art therapy. Abstract pieces in dark colors at first, blacks and grays and deep purples. But gradually colors began appearing. Yellow, blue, green. Dr. Chin said the colors were a sign of hope returning. 2 years after that terrible day in Notting Hill, Emma spoke a full sentence to me. We were in the garden, watching birds at the feeder I'd installed. Mama, she said softly, I'm glad I'm home. I held her then carefully, gently, and we both cried. The trial had been brutal but necessary. Emma didn't have to testify in person. The court made accommodations for her, allowing her testimony to be given via pre-recorded video with Dr. Chin present. Watching that video in court was the hardest thing I've ever done. Emma, my beautiful daughter, describing in her limited words what had been done to her. Showing with drawings what she couldn't express verbally. The courtroom fell into absolute silence as the video played. The judge, a stern woman named Justice Patricia Hartwell, had tears in her eyes. The prosecutor, Marcus Webb, had to take several breaks. Even the defense attorneys looked ill. Gregory's barrister tried to suggest that Emma, due to her autism, might have misunderstood what was happening. That perhaps the treatments were legitimate and she simply perceived them incorrectly. Can you imagine? Can you imagine a lawyer standing in court and suggesting that a child's autism made her an unreliable witness to her own abuse? Marcus Webb destroyed that argument systematically. He brought in Dr. Chin, who testified about Emma's capacity to understand and communicate about her experiences. He presented the physical evidence. He presented the videos that Gregory himself had made. There was no ambiguity. No room for doubt. Charlie's defense was even more despicable. Her barrister argued that she had been manipulated by Gregory. She had been manipulated by Gregory, that she was also a victim, that she had been coerced into participating. But the prosecution had the client lists in her handwriting. The bank records showing deposits into her business account. Text messages where she actively recruited new clients. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. When the sentences were read, 26 years for Gregory, 18 for Charlie, I felt nothing. No satisfaction. No sense of justice served. Because Emma would carry her scars forever, and no prison sentence could change that. What price can you put on stolen innocence? What punishment adequately addresses the destruction of a child's sense of safety, of trust, of self? After the trial, the media attention intensified. Even though our names were protected, the case became infamous. The Notting Hill abuse ring. The wellness cult horror. Documentaries were made. Books were written. Everyone had an opinion about what should have been done differently, about warning signs that were obvious, about systematic failures. And through it all, I had to protect Emma from knowing how public her trauma had become. The other victims, the children of the clients who had also been abused, their families reached out to me. We formed a support group. Parents trying to help their children heal from unthinkable trauma. One mother, Sarah from Kensington, told me, "I trusted him. He was my daughter's godfather. How was I supposed to know?" Another father, Robert from Chelsea, said, "The school recommended him as a tutor. He was supposed to be safe." Here's what I learned. Predators are experts at gaining trust. They position themselves as helpers, as caregivers, as the solution to your problems. And they count on your trust to give them access to your children. The support group helped. Knowing I wasn't alone in my failure, though failure is what Dr. Foster insisted I shouldn't call it, helped ease some of the guilt. But only some. 3 years have passed since I discovered the truth. Emma is now 20 years old, but she's not the same girl she was before. How could she be? Trauma changes you, reshapes you at a fundamental level. But she's stronger than I ever imagined possible. She attends a day program for adults with autism and trauma histories. She has a job, part-time, at a bookshop in Richmond that specializes in science books. Her manager, Olivia, is patient and kind and understands Emma's needs. Emma has friends now. Other young people who understand what it's like to be different, to be vulnerable, to have survived terrible things. She still has nightmares. Still has days when she can't leave the house. Still struggles with trust and physical touch. But she also laughs sometimes. She makes jokes, quirky, unexpected jokes that catch me off guard. She has dreams. She wants to study astronomy someday, maybe online courses to start. And here's what I need you to understand. Survivors are not defined by what was done to them. They are defined by their courage in facing each new day. But the questions remain. How did I not see it? How did I miss the signs? I've replayed every visit in my mind 1,000 times. Emma's weight loss. I believed Charlie when she said it was normal teenage changes. Emma's fearfulness. I believed it was anxiety related to her autism. Emma's withdrawal. I believed it was developmental. I believed because I wanted to believe. Because accepting the truth would have meant accepting that I had abandoned my daughter to predators. Would you have seen it? If someone you trusted, someone you loved, was lying to you about your child's safety, would you have known? I torture myself with this question. Dr. Foster says I'm experiencing what's called hindsight bias. The tendency to see the past as more predictable than it actually was. The signs are always obvious in retrospect, he told me. But in the moment, without knowledge of what's truly happening, they're ambiguous. You interpreted the signs through the lens of trust. That's not a failure. That's being human. But it doesn't feel like being human. It feels like being a failure. This is the part where I need you to really listen. This is the part that matters most. I'm sharing this story, this painful, horrific, deeply personal story, because I need you to understand something crucial. Your child is never automatically safe just because they're with family. Family members commit the majority of child abuse cases. Not strangers. Not the dangerous people we warn our children about. Family, friends, trusted community members. And vulnerable children. Children with disabilities, children with special needs, children who struggle to communicate, are at even higher risk. Here's why. First, they're often seen as unreliable witnesses. She doesn't understand. He can't communicate clearly. Their disability makes them confused. These phrases become shields for abusers. Second, they're often isolated. Well-meaning parents, desperate for help, will send their special needs children to live with relatives, to attend special programs, to work with specialists. And that isolation creates opportunity for abuse. Third, they're often dismissed when they try to tell. Emma did try to communicate in her own way. But her attempts were interpreted as behavioral issues, as autism-related challenges, as anything except the truth. So what should you do? How do you protect your child? Here are the things I learned too late. 1. Trust your instincts. Something feels wrong, investigate. Don't let people gaslight you into dismissing your concerns. I felt something was wrong with Emma, but I let Charlie convince me I was overreacting. Don't make my mistake. 2. Insist on access. If someone is caring for your child, you should be able to visit anytime unannounced. If they discourage visits or create barriers, that's a massive red flag. Charlie kept putting off my visits and I accepted it. I should have shown up unannounced far earlier. 3. Look for changes. Weight loss, fearfulness, withdrawal, regression in skills, nightmares, behavioral changes. These are all potential signs of abuse. Don't let anyone convince you they're normal without thorough investigation. Listen to your child. Even if they can't speak clearly, they're communicating. Changes in behavior are communication. Resistance to certain people is communication. Fear is communication. Pay attention. 5. Educate your child about their body. Even children with significant disabilities can learn basic body safety. Teach them the names of private parts. Teach them that no one should touch them there except for medical care or hygiene, and even then with clear explanation. Teach them that they can always tell you if something feels wrong. 6. Vet everyone. I don't care if it's your sister, your parent, your best friend. If they're going to have unsupervised access to your child, you need to be certain they're safe. Trust is not enough. Verification is not paranoia. It's responsible parenting. 7. Create a safety network. Don't rely on one person or one family to care for your child. Have multiple trusted adults in your child's life who can spot warning signs and who your child can communicate with. 8. Stay involved. Even if your child is living elsewhere, stay deeply involved in their life. Regular visits, regular communication with their caregivers, regular check-ins with teachers and therapists. Don't become a distant figure. 9. Believe survivors. When someone discloses abuse, believe them first and investigate second. Too many children are dismissed, especially children with disabilities. Create an environment where your child knows they will be believed and protected. 10. Forgive yourself if you miss signs. This is the hardest one. If abuse happens to your child, you will blame yourself. You will replay every moment. You will torture yourself with what-ifs. But ultimately the blame lies with the abuser, not with you. Heal yourself so you can help your child heal. That there's something else I need to address. The people who knew and said nothing. During the investigation, it came out that some people had suspected. A neighbor who heard strange sounds from Charlie's house. A delivery driver who once glimpsed Emma through a window, bound to a chair. One of Gregory's work colleagues who heard him make an inappropriate comment about Emma. None of them reported anything. The neighbor didn't want to interfere in family business. The delivery driver thought he must have been mistaken about what he saw. The colleague thought it was just an inappropriate joke. How many children suffer because good people choose silence over action? I'm not saying jump to conclusions. I'm not saying assume the worst of everyone. But I am saying that if you see something that troubles you, something that sets off alarm bells, you have a moral obligation to report it. Call the NSPCC. Call social services. Call the police. Make an anonymous report if you're worried about being wrong. Because the cost of being wrong is embarrassment. The cost of saying nothing is a child's continued suffering. 1 Anonymous call could have saved Emma 3 years of torture. One person speaking up could have prevented 11 predators from accessing vulnerable children. So I'm begging you, if you see something that concerns you, say something. Report it. Let the professionals investigate. Don't let fear of being wrong keep you silent. If you're watching this and you're in a situation similar to where I was, a special needs child, an unsupportive or abusive partner, the feeling of being overwhelmed and desperate, please hear me. There are options that don't involve giving up your child. That I didn't know about the resources available. I didn't know about respite care, about support groups, about financial assistance programs, about domestic violence services that could have helped me leave David safely with Emma. I thought my only choice was between letting David abuse Emma or sending her to live with Charlie. But there were other options. I just didn't know how to find them. Resources that exist in the UK. Contact for Families with Disabled Children provides advice, support and connections to local services. The National Autistic Society offers support specifically for families with autistic children. Family Action provides practical, emotional and financial support. Refuge and Women's Aid for domestic violence situations. Citizens Advice can help you understand your rights and access benefits. Local Authority Children's Services can provide support plans and respite care. You don't have to choose between a bad situation and giving up your child. There is help available. And if you're already in a situation where your child is living with someone else, and you're feeling uneasy about it, please act on that feeling. Visit unannounced. Ask difficult questions. Trust your instincts over other people's reassurances. Your child needs you to be brave enough to ask the hard questions and to face the difficult answers. With Emma's permission, I want to share something she wrote recently. She's been working with Dr. Chin on expressing her experiences through writing, and she wanted people to know what it was like from her perspective. This is Emma's statement in her own words, with minimal editing for clarity. When I went to Aunt Charlie's house, I thought it was temporary. I thought Mum would come get me soon. But she didn't come, and nobody listened when I tried to tell them what was happening. I couldn't talk much then. I still can't talk much now. But I tried. I made sounds when Gregory came to my room. I tried to hide. I hid and kicked. But they said I was having behavioral issues. They said it was my autism making me difficult. Nobody asks the quiet children what's wrong. They just assume we don't understand or don't feel things the way other people do. But I understood everything. I felt everything. I felt scared every day. I felt pain. I felt confused about why this was happening to me. I felt angry that nobody was stopping it. I want people to know that just because someone can't speak well doesn't mean they don't have a voice. Just because someone has autism doesn't mean they don't understand when something bad is happening. I understood. I just couldn't make anyone listen. So please, if you know a child who can't speak for themselves, be their voice. Watch them. Protect them. Believe them when they try to tell you something is wrong, even if they're not using words. And to other survivors like me, it wasn't your fault. Nothing you did or didn't do made them hurt you. The blame is all theirs, not yours. You can heal. I'm healing. It's slow and hard, and some days I don't think I can keep going. But I can. You can too. That's my daughter. 20 years old, still healing, but so much stronger than anyone who's never survived trauma could possibly understand. I would be remiss if I didn't address the systematic failures that allowed this abuse to continue for 3 years. Emma was enrolled in a school in Kensington. She saw a therapist twice a week. She had regular GP appointments. All of these professionals saw her regularly, and none of them identified the abuse. Why? The investigation revealed several factors. The school knew Emma was withdrawn but was told it was due to her autism. The therapist knew Emma showed signs of anxiety but attributed it to sensory issues. The GP noticed weight loss but was told Emma was being picky about food. Nobody connected the dots because nobody was looking at the whole picture. When professionals raised concerns, Charlie would provide plausible explanations and they would accept them. She was articulate, educated, and seemed genuinely devoted to Emma's care. Professionals trusted her and didn't push further. There's an unconscious bias that children with disabilities will naturally struggle more, will have more behavioral issues, will be more anxious and withdrawn. So concerning signs were normalized as typical for a child with her needs. Not all professionals who work with children receive comprehensive training in spotting abuse, especially abuse of disabled children. They might know the general signs but not how those signs present differently in children with autism. Since Emma's case became public, there have been some changes. Some regions in the UK now require additional safeguarding training specifically focused on vulnerable children. Some schools have implemented better information sharing protocols. But it's not enough. It's never enough until every child is protected. So I'm calling on policymakers, on educators, on healthcare providers. Do better. Create better systems. Train your staff better. Listen to children better. Because every child, regardless of disability, regardless of communication ability, deserves to be protected. This nightmare didn't just affect Emma and me. It shattered our entire family. My brothers, Michael and Thomas, still struggle with guilt over not being more present in Emma's life during those 3 years. They visit a counselor together, working through their feelings of failure. We should have checked on her more, Michael says repeatedly. We should have questioned why we weren't seeing her. Emma is healing because we got her out, got her help, and created a safe environment. But healing requires resources, support, and time. Not every survivor has access to what Emma has had. We need better mental health services, better support for families, better understanding of trauma. Guilt will try to destroy you. If you're a parent who failed to protect your child, the guilt will be overwhelming. It will whisper that you're a monster too, that you're no better than the abusers. But guilt, while natural, is not the same as responsibility. The abusers are responsible. You are responsible for what you do now, how you help your child heal, how you protect other children, how you turn your pain into purpose. If you're a parent, have a conversation with your children about body safety this week. This week. Don't put it off. If your child is in someone else's care regularly, Make an unannounced visit. See how they are when they don't expect you. Trust your instincts. Something feels wrong, investigate. If you're a professional who works with children, get additional training in spotting abuse, especially in vulnerable populations. Create systems for sharing information across disciplines. Never dismiss concerning signs just because there's a plausible explanation. If you're someone who sees something concerning, report it. Call your local social services. Call the police. You might be wrong and that's okay. But you might be right and a child's safety might depend on your call. If you're a survivor, know that it wasn't your fault. Nothing you did or didn't do caused your abuse. Seek help. Therapy, support groups, trusted friends. You don't have to heal alone. Your story matters. When you're ready, sharing it might help others. If you're supporting a survivor, believe them. Listen without judgment. Validate their experience. Be patient. Healing is not linear. Get support for yourself too. Secondary trauma is real. Before you go, I want to ask you a few questions. You don't have to answer out loud, but answer them honestly in your heart. If you saw signs of abuse in a family member's home, would you report it? Or would family loyalty keep you silent? Do you know the warning signs of child abuse, especially in children who are nonverbal or disabled? If your child told you in their own way that something was wrong, would you recognize it? Are there children in your life right now who might need you to be more vigilant, more present, more willing to ask hard questions? What will you do differently after watching this story? These aren't rhetorical questions. These are the questions that might save a child's life. It's been 3 years since that morning in Notting Hill. 3 years since I discovered the truth and the world shattered and rebuilt itself into something new. Emma is thriving in ways I once thought impossible. She has a job she loves at the bookshop. She has friends who understand and accept her. She has dreams for the future. Maybe not the same dreams she would have had if none of this had happened, but dreams nonetheless. She still has hard days. Days when the trauma overwhelms her. Days when she can't leave the house. Days when the nightmares come back with such intensity that she can't separate past from present. But she also has good days. Days when she laughs. Days when she makes plans. Days when she seems genuinely happy. And that's enough. That has to be enough. As for me, I carry my guilt like a stone in my chest. It's always there, always heavy. But I've learned to carry it without letting it crush me. I've learned that being a mother means making impossible choices sometimes, and living with the consequences. I've learned that evil exists in places you'd never expect, wearing faces you trust. I've learned that healing is possible even from the worst trauma. And I've learned that the most powerful thing we can do is tell our stories, no matter how painful, so that others might learn from our mistakes and tragedies. So this is my story. Emma's story. A story of betrayal, survival, and the long road to healing. I share it with you not for pity, not for absolution, but for action. Protect the vulnerable. Believe survivors. Trust your instincts. Question everything when a child's safety is at stake. And if you take nothing else from this story, take this. Your child is never automatically safe, even with family. Vigilance is not paranoia. It's love in action. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you for whatever you do next to protect the children in your life. Because they're counting on us. All of them. Once again, this story is fictional, created to raise awareness about the very real dangers vulnerable children face. If you or someone you know is experiencing abuse, UK resources, NSPCC helpline, 0808800500, Childline, 0800 1111, Police, Emergency 999, Police, Non-Emergency 101, the National Autistic Society helpline, 080880041104, Rape Crisis England and Wales, 080880299999, The Survivors Trust, 0808801018. Please reach out. Please get help. Please protect yourself and your children. You are not alone. I didn't share this story to seek sympathy. I shared it to warn parents, especially those raising special children. Sometimes the danger isn't outside. Sometimes it's hidden behind smiles, blood ties, and trust that if this story teaches anything, let it be this. Never ignore your instincts. Never assume silence means safety. Remember, this is a fictional, dramatized story inspired by real-life issues. It is shared to raise awareness about abuse, betrayal, and the vulnerability of children who cannot always speak for themselves. Every child deserves protection. Every special child deserves extra care, patience, and love. If this story made you uncomfortable, then it served its purpose. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it to spread awareness, and subscribe so more voices like this are heard.